Donald Trump emerged from Mar-a-Lago with Don King. He started taking a few questions from reporters in what turned into the closest thing to a press conference we've seen from the president-elect in months. Here that is in full.
Hello, everybody. Everybody okay?
Yeah, great, thank you.
You all know Don King?
Of course.
Who doesn't know Don King?
It's just great to be an American. And now with our leader, we're going to make New Day. Make America great again.
Is the Israeli flag a message for the president?
Pardon?
Is your Israeli flag a message for Obama?
The Israeli flag is about peace. You know, peace in the Middle East. Shimon Peres and Uri Shavir made me the peace ambassador. And so we want everyone to come together as one unit and make things happen. And he's the leader that can make it happen.
Are you guys okay? Everything fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Shalom, shalom,
Go
shalom,
ahead.
shalom.
Go ahead.
So we're wondering about do you have any further comments about Kerry's speech? You know, you had some
No, I
strong
think his
remarks
speech
this
really
morning,
speaks for
but-
itself. Yeah, it speaks for itself. It was pretty obvious.
But he said that friends need to set friends straight, and that was one of the things
Look,
that
we
you
have different views. We have that peace. I think it set it back. But we're going to see what happens after January 20th, right? I think you're going to be very impressed. I hope.
Mr. President-elect.
Mr. President-elect, Sprint tells us that the 5,000 jobs that you announced today were part of the 50,000
No,
that
Sprint will
Mazda
give you.
announced.
Sprint will give you. I just spoke with the head person. He said because of me, they're doing 5,000 jobs in this country. They just put a release out. Hope has it. You'll see it, and that's that. And they're also doing. Masa is doing 3,000 jobs with, as you know, OneWeb.
So those 5,000 jobs at Sprint
5,000 is
not,
Sprint. No, that has
are they
nothing
not
to
part
do.
of the 50,000?
I'll give you their statement. Okay?
Mr. President-elect, there's a lawsuit where journalists are trying to get the records that Congress saw for alleged Russian intervention in the election. Do you think any records on Russian intervention should be
I
made
think what
public?
they should do is do the best they can, figure it all out. Figure it all out.
Sir, do you think there should be a public option for veterans to get health care in the United States?
Well, I had three of the greatest in the world today. Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, the three top people from the best in the world. And they were amazing, and they have some really good ideas. And we have to get it fixed. I've been saying we're going to take care of our vets, and we're going to take care of our vets. So I had the three greatest people in the world. If you look at those institutions, I think you'd all agree. And they were all in a room together with myself and some others. And we're working on something to make it great for the veterans, because the veterans have been treated very, very unfairly.
Should we
Here, here,
take
here,
it
here.
to private hospitals if we do?
Well, I don't want to see veterans waiting in line for 2 weeks. And, you know, in many cases, they have a minor illness, and it takes so long to see a doctor, it turns out to be a major illness and beyond that. And I don't want to see that anymore. So we'll see what happens. If you look at my website, I pretty much called it. But they want to see fast service. The doctors were explaining to me today, I mean, things that can be taken care of quickly, when you wait too long, it's life-threatening, and that's what's been happening. People are dying. So we're gonna fix it properly, not like it's been done over the past, okay?
How close are you to being able to...
You said that you wanted to dissolve it. The New York AG's office says you cannot do that until they finish their investigation. How is that going to affect?
Well, I have a foundation that has given millions and millions of dollars to people over the years. And it's been, you know, very well thought of, and we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll just see what happens. But it's given millions and millions of dollars, zero expense, zero. Nobody has that I know of, but zero expense. So that's working out very nicely.
How close are you to showing off the plans for your business? And are we going to hear from you?
Oh
like
yeah,
this
that's
more?
very routine. Honestly, it's a very routine thing. It's not a big deal. You people are making that a big deal, the business, because, hey, look, number one, when I won, they all knew I had a big business all over the place. In fact, I reported it with the, as you know, with the federal elections. It's a much bigger business than anybody thought. It's a great business, but I'm going to have nothing to do with it. I'm going to just, I don't have to, because as you know, I wouldn't have to do that by law, but I want to do that because I want to focus on the country. But when I ran, people know I have a very big business. So, I mean, they elected me, I guess, partially for that reason. So I think that's going to work out very easily. It's actually a very simple situation. It's not a big deal.
Then why would
And
this
we'll be having a press conference sometime in early January.
Mr. President, could you elaborate a little bit more on your conversation with Obama today? Is the transition of power going as smoothly as you would have hoped? You indicated
Yeah, he
last night it
called
wasn't.
me. He called me. We had a very, very good talk generally about things. He was in Hawaii, and it was a very, very nice call. And I actually thought we covered a lot of territory, a lot of good
Are
territory.
you satisfied with the transition thus far?
Well, our staffs are getting along very well, and I'm getting along very well with him, other than a couple of statements that I responded to. And we talked about it and smiled about it. And nobody's ever going to know because we're never going to be going against each other in that way. So, but it was a great conversation.
Mr. President-elect, Senator Graham today said that they're putting together sanctions that will go after Putin personally. Would you back that?
I don't know what he's doing. I haven't spoken to Senator Graham. I don't know. Haven't spoken to him. As you know, he ran against me. And I haven't spoken to him.
You have to admit, he shocked the world. Nothing else to say. He shocked the world.
Senator Graham ran against me. I haven't spoken to him since.
What do you think generally about sanctions against Russia?
I think we ought to get on with our lives. I think that computers have complicated lives very greatly. The whole, age of computer has made it where nobody knows exactly what's going on. We have speed, we have a lot of other things, but I'm not sure you have the kind of security that you need. But I have not spoken with the senators, and I certainly will be over a period of time.
Sir, do you believe there should be a limit to where Israel can build settlements?
I think you know what I believe. I'm very, very strong on Israel. I think Israel's been treated very, very unfairly by a lot of different people. You look at resolutions in the United Nations, you take a look at what's happened. They're up for 20 reprimands, and other nations that are horrible places that treat people horribly haven't even been reprimanded. So there's something going on, and I think it's very unfair to Israel. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. King.
All right, that was President-elect Donald Trump with Don King holding a U.S., Israeli, and I think a few other flags in his sort of signature denim coat. A man who was going to speak at the RNC until reporting indicates that they told him that having a convicted murderer who had stomped a man to death at the RNC manslaughter would be sort of a weird look. But there he was, the President-elect down at Mar-a-Lago, the famous and legendary John King, and the President-elect taking more questions than he's taken since winning the election. Joining me now, Washington Post columnist Catherine Rampell. So that seemed like a sort of typical Trump performance. Not a ton of answers.
A lot of deflection, yeah.
A lot of deflection. What stuck out to me was this sort of back and forth on Sprint today. So the president-elect says basically, I talked to Sprint, bringing back 5,000 jobs. Sprint says, well, that was part of a thing that we'd already agreed to and arranged. He seemed to go back on that, but it shows you how slippery it could be to kind of cover this president-elect's claims.
Yes, I mean, his claims should be taken seriously, but not literally, or whatever the expression du jour is.
Right.
Because it's very hard to take them literally, because they would contradict each other at every turn, which makes it very challenging. In the case of the Sprint back and forth, they had announced, or their parent company anyway, had announced 50,000 jobs being created here in the U.S. A few weeks ago,
right.
Actually, post-election.
Right.
But prior to that, their owner had also announced that they were going to be investing something like $50
billion. That's right.
Yes, in the U.S.
That's right.
And
so their owner is a massive bank, which is based out of Japan. They had made this announcement of a huge investment in the U.S. prior to the election during the campaign season.
Right, and it was very likely, even then, that a lot of that would go to the United States.
Right.
And beyond that, I mean, one wonders what Trump may have said to Sprint. You know, they have a merger that's being considered right now. So we don't know what the trade-offs were. We don't know if this would have happened either way. I mean, I think in Sprint's perspective, the best thing that they can hope for is that Trump believes that they are doing this solely because of something persuasive that he said.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you got, look, it's interesting. They have not had him do a press conference, a real press conference, and that wasn't really a press conference, call that availability. But that was, he took a number of questions, he answered them. They haven't had it since July 27th, which was the day after the RNC. It was the day that the last press conference he had where he somewhat infamously looked in the camera and told a foreign government to commit espionage against his political opponent when he told Russia to...
Cyber espionage.
Cyber espionage, when he told him to hack Hillary's emails. He later said he was a joke, he was being sarcastic. But they have kept him away from it, and it's been a while since we've seen the sort of classic Trumpian deflection. But it's the same stuff we saw during the campaign, and I think what we can expect in the administration.
Yeah, I mean, why bother answering any questions, right? Nobody's really holding him to it. His voters don't seem to care. He can change his positions on any given issue, and he's forgiven. So, I mean, why bother participating in the process of democracy if he doesn't have to, essentially.
And we should note that in some ways keeping away from press conferences was tactically paid its benefits, particularly down the stretch of the campaign. I think his handlers and his staff recognized that he tended to do things in those press conferences, like calling on the Russians to hack his opponent's emails.
Well, but he was erratic in lots of other media
That's true.
as well.
That's a fair point.
I mean, they
Right.
didn't keep him away from Twitter. So
Right.
I don't know that really it made or broke the election.
Although as a reporter, I have to say, it is nice to be able to ask questions and even if you don't get answers, to have some back and forth as opposed to everyone waiting around until the next tweet and run
Yes.
those and then just analyzing those.
Obviously. But my point being that I'm not sure that his erratic behavior was necessarily curbed by his not having these press conferences. So maybe it helped his campaign, maybe it didn't. At the very least, you could argue that, yes, this is bad for democracy to not have the press holding his feet to the fire.
We'll talk a little